Well, good day! In today's video, we will be looking at the first cartoon appearance of everyone's favorite resident of Bedrock. That's right, I'm talking about the Great Gazoo! So, alright, let's go! Alright, so we start off in the Flintstone home where Wilma is being super sweet and super attentive to Fred. You know, making him his favorite breakfast, complimenting him, just being overall wonderful to him. So Fred figures there's only one reason why she's doing this. She wants something! Which turns out, yeah, she actually does. So Wilma and Betty are wanting Fred and Barney to take them out to that brand new fantastic restaurant on the hill, the Chateau Rockinbleu. But sacre bleu! This restaurant, she is crazy expensive. C'est très cher. It's so expensive, man. Like, forget about paying with an arm and a leg, you know? You'll have to pay with a whole torso. So as Fred and Barney are contemplating like how they could possibly, afford to pay for this elaborate evening, they notice some strange thing in the sky. And stranger still, it's falling directly towards them. It damn near hits them, you know? So after that disaster is averted, they figure to check this thing out. And this thing is like really weird, you know? It's not made out of normal materials, like stone or wood. It's shiny, it's smooth, it's unfathomable, And even stranger, this thing starts talking to Fred and Barney. It's telling them how to operate it, Which Fred kind of complies with, but still, man, like, they have no idea what this thing is. It could be a bomb for all they know. Actually, no, bombs weren't invented at this point yet, so they have no concept of a bomb, but still, it could be something horrible, like, fire, Fire, bad. But instead, it opens up and a small green humanoid pops out of it. He calls himself the Great Gazoo. He is the former head master scientist of the planet Zatox. Wow, the whole planet, hey? Holy jeez. But, Zatox, hey? Yeah, like, I've been there, man. Like, it's a pretty far out place, Both literally and figuratively. So with that planet being so fantastic, what the hell is this super genius doing on Earth in the Stone Age? Well, it turns out he built a doomsday device that would destroy the entire universe. And that was deemed as a pretty bad idea, so the other Zatokians banished him. They put him in this fancy time capsule and sent him back in time to prehistoric Earth, the Stone Age, where his punishment is to serve these two Stone Age dum-dums until he can prove to his bosses that he is reformed, that he will no longer invent universe-murdering devices. And part of that punishment is that Fred and Barney are the only ones who can see the Great Gazoo. Well, them and, children and animals, but other than that, just Fred and Barney. But even still, that's a pretty fantastic punishment, like holy jeez. So how does Gazoo serve Fred and Barney? Well, with magic, of course. Silly. With a snap of his fingers, he can do practically anything. So can he snap himself back to the planet Zatox? Or snap himself a spaceship, Well, I guess not, but he can literally create anything out of thin air. Hamburgers, clothes, furniture, whatever. So after a while, Fred and Barney start to think a little realistically about the situation that they're in. If Gazoo could help them with anything, Gazoo could help them get into the Chateau Rockinbleu, where money would suddenly be no object. Even considering that, Gazoo gave Fred 20 bucks, So they figure to use Gazoo's help in that endeavor. But, not in a real smart way, Because it would not be a Fred and Barney plan if things were done intelligently. Gazoo helps them get new dresses for Betty and Wilma, which is really nice, but the boys don't ask Gazoo to get them reservations to the Rockinbleu, or to get extra money for the meal straight up, just in case, none of that, Like, that would be crazy. Especially when you consider that Fred uses all the money that he has on him to bribe the waiter, Pierre, to get into the restaurant. where they proceed to get the most expensive items on the menu. Eventually, the check arrives, and it comes out to $225 for the 4 of them. Holy crap! And that's Stone Age prices. Man, that is a lot of coin. Oh, right, yeah, that's right. It's no problem, you know? They can just ask Gazoo for money, right? Right? Well, turns out no, because Gazoo is not answering their call. Wow, his first day of being a servant to Fred and Barney, you know, for his repentance, and he totally drops the space ball. Jeez. So with no money on them, Fred and Barney do the only thing that they can do. They try to bolt out of the restaurant and run out on the bill, leaving their wives behind. Oh my god, what gentlemen, hey? But that plan does not work because the bouncer, Alphonse, stops them in their tracks, so now the two dum-dums have to work off the bill in the kitchen. But things kind of work out because Betty and Wilma had to pay the bill by using their stored away vacation money. So, well, I guess no trips to Rock Vegas this year, you know, but they did have a pretty fancy meal. So with Gazoo, it turns out that he was asleep the whole time, so he couldn't even hear them to help them out. So instead of taking accountability on that, you know, Gazoo says, hey, you guys can't count on me, so be accountable for yourselves. Which, yeah, you know, I guess is a good point, you know? But geez, Gazoo, do you want to go back to Zatox or not, you know? You gotta prove it. But Gazoo makes it up to Fred by setting the mood, you know, with Wilma, turning out the lights, getting her flowers and all that kind of stuff, hey? So it turns out things are all good after all, yeah. And with that, that is the end of this prehistoric tale. Yeah, man. So, you know, I wouldn't say that's my favorite Flintstones episode of all time, you know, but still, it's an original Flintstones episode, which means it's still pretty awesome. But this one in particular is also kind of the beginning of the end of the original Flintstones show. Many a critic will regard this episode as the Flintstones jumping the shark episode. Jumping the Sharkosaurus, I guess, to be more accurate. If you didn't know, the term jumping the shark means that a show ran out of original ideas that made sense to the show, and now they're just trying to throw spaghetti on the wall and see what sticks. And for the show Flintstones, you know, the show made sense because it's Stone Age people doing Stone Age things, you know, but with modern amenities. Like, it was pretty standard. And then you throw in this alien from the future who can do anything, right? Like, kind of doesn't fit to the whole thing, you know? Like, the whole concept of, like, future stuff meeting up with, like, Stone Age stuff is pretty neat, but in this, you don't get the future stuff, you just get, you know, magic. Like, I do like the guy and all that kind of stuff, but yeah, you know, I can definitely see how it is kind of, you know, wickety-whack, right? And I'm still kind of a little confused about, you know, Fred and Barney's involvement in the Zatox judicial system, you know? So Gazoo is tethered to Fred and Barney, you know, in order to prove that he's been reformed. So basically what they're suggesting is that the judges on Zatox observed Fred and Barney through the fabrics of space and time and deemed them worthy of reforming someone of their species, you know? Like, I don't get it. Like, is Fred and Barney, like, the most irresponsible people on, like, prehistoric Earth, and that's why they were chosen? Do the Zatokians have a disdain for Earth, kind of like Q from Star Trek does? One of those things we may never know. And another thing that we will never know is what kind of food did they have at the Chateau Rockinbleu? I am interested to know what French cuisine would be like if it's translated into Stone Age times, you know? Did they have pterodactyl under glass? Blanket de velociraptor? Escargosaurus? All tasty, all unknown. Nonetheless, you know, it's still a pretty hip episode, and Gazoo, you know, for, you know, the kind of character that he is, man, he actually is, you know, pretty cool, and he is pretty well known, so I guess, you know, yeah, good job for bringing him in. But with that, we do have a whole bunch more things about Gazoo and sharks and, I don't know, some other kind of stuff like that over here. So yes, Gazoo! And we start off with Gazoo with the start of Season 6 of The Flintstones. So the show The Flintstones has been on for 5 years and was starting to really run out of creative ideas, which is kind of an odd thing to say, man, because The Flintstones was pretty frickin' creative, man. The whole concept of the modern Stone Age amenities, was actually pretty awesome in itself. It still is to this day. And they were pretty innovative in bringing a lot of pop culture references to the show. Either characters from a movie or a recreation of movies or musicians or popular actors at the time. They were pretty awesome in that pop culture regard. They changed the dynamics again by bringing in some children, Pebbles and Bam Bam. Even the whole concept of Wilma being pregnant for a while, that was something that was not seen on television by a cartoon before. So some pretty innovative stuff, right? But with all these Stone Age ideas drying up, like they had to look outside the box for new inspiration. And with that, boom! You got Gazoo! An alien from the future! So if it's out of the box, such as that, well, that means jumping the shark. A term that did not exist in Hollywood or television at the time of the original run of the Flintstones show, but the sentiment was there. The term jump the shark actually came out of the show Happy Days in a season 5 episode called Hollywood Part 3, which debuted in 1977, where the Fonz, who could do anything and has done everything, had to show that he could jump over a shark in a water skiing stunt. To which he did, and to which signified, that the original premise of Happy Days was pretty much over. Not so much about a bunch of teenagers hanging out at Arnold's and having teenage fun, and much like the Flintstones, they also did meet an alien from the future, this time called Mork from Ork. C'est la vie, eh? So let's focus a bit more on Gazoo. So Gazoo was created by writer Joanna Lee. And Joanna knows a thing or two about the Flintstones, like she's written over 20 episodes of the series, so she is definitely a resident of Bedrock. And for Gazoo, she needed some pretty awesome inspiration, and she found it! So Gazoo was based on Bill Moore, a legendary design teacher from the California Institute of the Arts. His teaching style made him very difficult to work with. He was very demanding and very critical, but his students really loved him for it, He wanted the best from them after all. And yeah, he definitely got it from them too. Because, he really did care for his students. Which is kind of how Gazoo treats Fred and Barney, Also for the fact that Moore and Gazoo are quite flamboyant. So an interesting perspective on Gazoo. Gazoo. What a weird name, eh? Gazoo. That was not the original name for the character. Joanna was really looking at the name Professor Og, who would be known as the Wizard of Og. That's almost on the nose for Wizard of Oz, so she figured to change it up. Had a bunch of other silly names, but then all of a sudden Gazoo popped up, and yeah, man, that name stuck pretty well and is pretty neat. So for the voice of the Great Gazoo, they brought in the legendary comedy actor Harvey Korman. Known mostly from the Carol Burnett show and a lot of Mel Brooks movies. Legend. But still, with Gazoo, with all this really good work with the character, the show could not be saved through this season and was cancelled. But the Flintstones live on in many different ways, and have been ever since the show was created. New shows, new movies, video games, whatever, man, they've always been around. And with that, so has the Great Gazoo. It's almost a paradox in a way, because Gazoo was seen as a jump a shark moment, despite Gazoo showing up in only 9 episodes, man. This character is actually really popular. He even got his own comic book with The Flintstones featuring the Great Gazoo #1 in 1973 from Charlton Comics. And in there it's pretty neat because he is also shown hanging out on Zatox with other Zatokians while still hanging out with Fred and Barney. So if you haven't got enough Gazoo with 9 episodes, man, you have a lot of reading to do. And for the most part, every time there is another Flintstones project, kind of being greenlit, more than likely you'll find Gazoo in there, including his live-action debut in The Flintstones in Viva Rock Vegas, which came out in the year 2000. So good on you, Gazoo! So in this episode, the Flintstones and the Rebels went to the Chateau Rockinbleu. So seeing as the Flintstones generally reference something, or other for every place or whatever that they show on the show, what does the Chateau Rockinbleu represent? Well, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe it is a reference to the Chateau de Rockinbleu in France, a pretty fantastic looking castle which is a tourist destination these days. They might have a really awesome restaurant in there, I'm not quite sure, but even though the Chateau de Rockinbleu does not quite look like the Chateau Rockinbleu, I guess kind of a reference enough to it, hey? But yes, that's pretty much all I have for this episode. The basic skinnies on Gazoo and shark jumping and whatnot. So yeah, with this, that, those, and the other things, I guess that's that. Also, if you're interested, I created my own comic book channel, 215 Comics. And currently, I have created my own cartoon series, The Adventures of the Density. And recently started a radio series featuring my newest character, Elastomorph, with more titles to come. So if you want to check it out, I'll leave a link up top here to that channel and some links at the end of the video. Yeah! Right on, and there you go. So thanks for watching the video. I hope you liked it as much as I did making it. Also, feel free to check out the source material that I featured in this video. And if you want to leave a comment on anything you may have liked or things I might have missed in this, feel free to do so. Or anything else, just to say hi. That's cool too. And other than that, have a great day. Thanks.